All right. So hi everyone. I know I've spoken to some of you in the past, but I think maybe maybe Kim I haven't talked to before. My name is Nathaniel Meskel or Nate, and I'm one of the product trainers here with Zenoti. Today our focus is on reporting. So I have a kind of list or a handful of reports that we'll go over today. At the end of the call, if there are maybe certain reports you're looking for, I could take note of those and provide a follow-up regarding what that would look like in Zenoti. Before we jump directly into reports, though, I wanted to break down the definitions between sales and collections, and this is going to hopefully, focus your lens on these two items when looking at Zenoti reporting. So to start with sales, a sale is any item in Zenoti. It's the final price of the item after factoring in all discounts. This is, generally speaking, the day in which the actual service took place and not the date in which the service was booked. The sale of your other items, such as products, memberships, packages, those are also reflected on the day the item was sold. So in this quick example, if a guest purchases a membership on the 11th, but makes that payment using the membership on the 12th, the sale of that item would be reflected on the 11th. On the other end of that, in regards to collections in Zenoti is the collection of the total amount collected from your guest or client. So your collection amounts generally do include that amount collected from tax, if applicable. I know not so much on the service end for you all, but more so on the product side, you'll see that reflected. Our agenda today, I know this kind of looks like a lot all at once, but these are the reports I wanted to focus on to hopefully, steer you in the right direction for when you kind of run your financials and look at this information. We'll take a look first at some kind of standard reports in terms of looking at today's sales, today's collections. We'll then take a look at our daily reports and what those look like. I wanted to highlight a V2, which is a version 2 report, and kind of show you where that access point is. We'll then take a look at some financial reports. We'll look initially at our sales and then our collections. We'll then focus on membership-based reports, so looking at those recurring membership and membership details. An operational report. We'll then talk about inventory-based reports, and then a couple different reports regarding, your guests, as well as just a quick kind of report on loyalty points for those that have been migrated over. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and exit out of my PowerPoint and we will go from there. So before I jump into different reports and kind of get going in that capacity, I first wanted to highlight kind of just functionality of how to access reports, what you can essentially do with them and go from there. I am using my own training site or demo account today. So, the services and products and things like that you may see today aren't, reflecting your own business items. But that being said, again, the reports that I'm highlighting are still applicable for your business. So within or based on my role permissions, you'll see I have access to a variety of different tabs here at the top. Within each of these different modules, you'll find that there's also a reporting tab. So there's different reports found within these different modules. That being said, though, you'll also see here there is a reports, module specific as indicated for reports. And this is generally what we encourage employees or customers to take a look at, when running your reports. Again, to give just kind of a quick breakdown of navigation, on the left-hand side here, this is where you're going to see the different categories of reports. So, as an owner or a manager or, looking at different reports in terms of your finances or in terms of other pieces within here. Now, once you've selected a report, in this case, finance or category, you then have the ability to filter. So you can go ahead and say, okay, great, I'm looking for my collections reports or my sales reports, etc. What you'll see based on the filters, all those reports that fall under this specific category and filter. You'll notice that next to the reports, there's this bookmark or favorite icon. What this allows you to do is simply click on this icon, and this then will appear under your favorites list. So as as I'm going through this, or as you're kind of exploring these reports on your own, you can essentially create a list of your favorite reports that you'll be using on potentially a daily, weekly, monthly basis, right? And so this kind of houses all of those for you. Now, there may be reports in the future that you're like, I'm just not, sure exactly where to access that particular report. I know the name, I just don't know where it is within these different pieces. And thankfully, there's this search option here. So I'm just going to use an example. Let's say I was looking for my register closure report. I can start by typing REG, and you'll see it starts filtering down based upon the report name. So I can see here that, okay, great, I found my register closure report. For future notice, I notice or I can identify that this is going to be found under the Finance tab within my accounting-based reports. So again, kind of a mental note there in that regard. What you'll also see is when I go ahead and run this report, and again, we'll talk about reports and details in just a second. When I run the report, you'll see here, I'll uncheck this, there's also a favorite icon listed here as well. So once I've ran this report, if I need to add it to my favorites list, I don't need to go back necessarily and find it. I can simply add it from here, and it then appears on my favorite list. So again, next time I can go ahead and simply just find it on this list that I've created. Now, with reports, this is always something that is, a work in progress, I would say, in terms of we always are trying to create, new reports and reports that are applicable for our customers based on the demand and needs for certain fields and items, etc. So we do have our version 2 reports, which when I navigate into this page by trying the newer version, you'll see a list of different reports that are published within our V2, but also reports that are in the works. As I mentioned, this is a continuous process. So I know we have a lot of inventory reports that are in the works that are coming up. So this is essentially where you can access these reports. As mentioned, I will go over one report that I do want to highlight in particular, but you'll see here you have the ability to filter, once again, by the categories of reports, by frequency of viewing. You can search for those V2 reports listed here. What's also nice about the version 2 reports, as there are often a lot of questions around them, is that in clicking on a particular report, it provides you that quick kind of description of the report, and you have the ability to navigate to the Know More section, which takes you directly to a Zenoti support help or reference article. So this is something that you could use for kind of your own reading material in reviewing this report. And you'll see there's other help topics associated to this report. Again, as you saw, there are different access points to open up different pieces that we see here, and you have the ability to run the report directly from here or by clicking on this arrow to run this report. And again, we'll come back to this. I know this is kind of, just kind of laying the foundation for the different reports that we'll take a look at today. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and start off. Okay, great. I actually want to start off in the appointment book real quick and work our way out. And I know we've talked about this maybe a few times, whether it was in our Q&As or prior, but reports that I often think are overlooked are these two reports. So on the appointment book, you have the ability to take a look at, when you bring up the context menu, today's sales as well as today's collections. So knowing, I guess, the difference between those two at the moment, the reason why we suggest taking a look at today's sales is because this allows you to see not only your invoice amount totals at the moment, but it also allows you to see if there are any amounts due. And we generally recommend running this report, prior to closing your register. That way, okay, great, I have a pretty big outstanding due amount. I can see here those invoices that still have amounts due, that are still open. I need to go back in and make sure that, A, the payment was collected if applicable, or B, I need to make sure that I close that invoice. So this allows you to filter by the status of the appointment as well as the source of booking. Obviously, right, you may have a lot more appointments on the day than I have at the moment. But again, this is helpful in terms of making sure all of your invoices are closed for the day. So that way you don't have any open amounts when you're closing your register for the day. You'll also have the ability, as I mentioned, to take a look at today's collections. As we saw, we don't have any amounts collected, but this would highlight kind of just a brief snapshot for the different payment types that you see here and those collection totals. So those totals would be listed across these columns, and you would also see that total collected for today's date. Moving back into the reports module. Oops, it looks like maybe we have a question. Yeah, Shannon, sorry, go ahead.
On that today's sales, can you do it on the iPad or the phone? When we try to pull the today's sales up on the phone, you can never see a total. But when you pull it up on the computer, we can always see a total because we're all looking for a place that we can look at sales through the day. Is there a way to format that, or is there a way to get that report to where we can see it on our phone?
Are you referring to like using Zenoti mobile on like the iPad or?
No, exactly where you just went in, the ivnutritionnow.zenoti.com. Like if you have the website up on your phone and you go into your appointment book and you click to today's sales, just like you did, you can't ever get to a total.
Okay, does it pop up at least with this pop up for you on the on using your phone, or no?
Yes. So you can see appointments, but it can never get to the bottom. Like it just only puts part of it up. And I may be taking us off course, but I know this is something we've all been trying to look at.
No, it's okay. Can I ask, so just I guess to get clarity, what you're doing is you're opening up an internet browser on your phone, you're logging into your Zenoti site, going to the appointment book from there, and then pulling up this particular report.
Yes.
Can I just ask the reason why you're pulling it up on your phone rather than on like your computer?
Because if we're not at our computer, we want to see where we're at for the day. You'd have to be sitting at a computer to do that, but not all of us have access all day long through the computer. So sometimes we're trying to find a backdoor way in through our phones.
Got it. Yeah, let me take a look at that. I'm not sure if there's any type of, I don't know, I don't want to say restrictions, but any type of, I guess, challenges in pulling it up on a browser on your phone, but I can double check.
Nathaniel?
Yeah.
So all of the franchisees have previously in Square. Square gives you a good total. If they go into like Square Mobile, they can look at where they are at, just a total for the day. It breaks down all of the information, and they're trying to get that information on a mobile device on the go so that they can monitor what is going on at the clinic. And we keep being told that there will be a platform in the future, but it's just not in the works yet for people to manage. And if they log into Zenoti Mobile, it only gives that employee's information, and so there's nothing there. So that's what Shannon's wanting. She's just wanting to be able to monitor things in real time, and they're not wanting to monitor appointments or anything like that. They're just wanting to monitor the financials.
Got it. Yeah, I would say.
Thanks, Katie.
Yeah, thanks so much, Katie. Yeah, it sounds like from your comment as well, at least this is something potentially in the future. It's just not something that I'm aware of at the moment. But again, I'll take note of it just to look into. Sorry about that. All right. We're going to jump into a few different daily reports to look at, and then we'll go from there into our different financial reports. So underneath daily reports, you'll see there's different reports that you can run as indicated either for the day or for the month, or you can view all reports within this particular category that we filtered. I'll just go ahead and search at the moment to make, obviously, because we have a lot to get through in this amount of time, but the first report I wanted to take a look at is regards to the daily summary. So what this is going to highlight, my computer as well has been running a little bit slow today, so I apologize. What this will allow you to see is, as indicated, kind of an overview or daily summary of, different aspects of your business in terms of financials and other information. So you'll see here it identifies the amount in sales for your services, as well as the number of services that were performed, the sales in products, your membership sales, any type of package sales. And then it gives you an indication, as you can see from that, that product to service percentage, product to total percentage. In this middle column here, this reflects the collection. So the collection amounts that have actually occurred. So the cash collections, the card collections, for you all, that membership credit collections that you will be using or are using already, and the gift card collections, etc. You'll also see details regarding, register closure information. So the closure date and time, any amount that was deposited, the opening and closing balance, and all that information will be listed. It's also going to give you a breakdown in terms of your totals collected by new and existing guests, any type of invoice modifications, any open invoices or payments that are outstanding or still need to be paid. A general summary as indicated of guest details. So, the number of new guests that you've had come in, existing guests, total service by guests, as we can see here, and then other additional details regarding, appointment status. So those number of cancellations, number of no-shows. Just this whole report is a quick snapshot of essentially everything that's happened, I guess, within this particular day. Sorry, I see there's also a question. Sorry, the chat box doesn't pop up as frequently. So let me just double check. Okay, actually we're good in this chat. Perfect. Another report to take a look at that we generally encourage after, your register, after you've closed your invoices for the days in regards to the register summary. So again, let me refresh this. What this allows you to see, as indicated, is kind of an overview or summary in regards to the register for the day. So again, you're capturing that information in regards to services, your sales by services, your sales of products, sales of memberships, packages, etc. This is also going to highlight any type of redemptions that have happened. So any type of package redemptions that have occurred, any applicable tax information, and you'll see details regarding the total that's expected to be collected. On the right-hand side here, this is where you'll see those collections that have occurred. So again, for you all, right, you'll see any type of cash collections. It will break down the credit cards by, again, Visa, American Express, and have those totals. You'll also see underneath here, it will highlight those membership credits that have been collected or redeemed, essentially, and any gift card redemption. And it's also going to highlight, the total that has been collected, as well as any outstanding balance. So that's why, again, kind of going back to where we started, it's important that you do take a look at that, today's sales report prior to closing your register, just so you make sure you take care of those open invoices. It also gives you an overview at this point in time of any tip-related details, and you'll see different redemptions in terms of those package redemptions listed here, any type of discounts that have occurred, that you've applied on the invoice or point of sale, would be listed here. The tip details would also be captured. So if you're curious, how much in cash or credit card tip, again, if applicable, would be listed here. What you'll also see on your live site is in this right where I'm circling, hopefully everyone can see, please disregard this information. But what you'll see here is that the system's going to identify a couple different items. It's going to identify what has been deposited on today's dates. And what I mean by that is with Zenoti payments, right, it does take a couple days for when that money is collected for it to be deposited. So today's the 15th. Generally speaking, right, it would take maybe 2 or 3 days. So it's going to show you what money has been deposited, most likely from the 12th or the 13th on today's date. What it's also going to show you on your live site is the transactions that have occurred, those credit card transaction totals. So that gross amount, what the fees are for that gross amount, and then what your net gain will be for the day. So that is something that's highlighted on this report that I just wanted to point out. I know I can't show it on this particular site. On the left-hand side here, at the bottom, you'll see kind of future thinking if you do have any type of cross-center redemptions, if applicable. And then on the bottom right-hand here, this is where you'll see your register closure information once again. So again, this is generally a report we recommend running, either the end of the day, end of the night when the register is closed, or maybe you run it, for the previous day in the morning. So just something to highlight here, kind of giving you a, holistic picture of things that have occurred. In regards to the register, as we had talked about, we also have a register closure report, which I know I highlighted earlier. Now, if you have multiple registers, you can specify the register and you can go ahead and then define the time frame. Now, with these timeframes, you'll see there are predefined timeframes listed, and you also have the ability to set a custom time period. So maybe you wanted to take a look at your register closures between, maybe the 28th of December all the way up through today's date, and you can refresh this information. Now, what this is going to highlight, it's going to show you that cash register, who the register was closed by, and the date and time in which the register was closed. It's going to identify the opening balance, the collections that have occurred, cash, card, etc. You'll also see details regarding any deposits that have occurred here. If I scroll over, sorry, I know it's a little bit hard to see, I would also be able to view any adjustments that have occurred. And what that indicates in regards to adjustments is if, for example, you had, maybe $100 more at the end of the night than you should, or you're missing $100 more than you should. Those adjustments would be listed here. And ideally, when that occurs, it would be in kind of the best business option, right, is to go ahead and enter those reasons or comments for that adjustment. So if, for example, we're $5 short or something like that, you can go ahead and add that comment and it will be listed here on the cash adjustment reasons. The closing balance is then reflected here on the far right. Now, if this is something that you are doing on a daily basis, right, in terms of closing your register, this closing balance then becomes tomorrow's opening balance. So this is kind of that cycle or pattern of when you have that closing balance, it then becomes the next day's opening balance. Now, you'll also see here you have the ability to add a register closure as well as edit a register closure. The reason why, and I know we talked about this on the Q&A, the reason why we encourage our customers or, you as employees to verify the amount at the beginning of the day is so that if there are any discrepancies or any edits that need to be made, or if a register closure was not performed the night before, that you go ahead and run this report and edit or add that closure. The reason why, again, we kind of reiterate that process is because if you're going maybe a week, right, and you realize that there was a mistake made a week back, it is important to note that if you edit any of these, it impacts those future adjustments or future amounts that you'll see in these register closures. By no means does it affect, the collections you've had or the sales you've had or anything like that. It simply just kind of impacts this process moving forward. So I guess my words of wisdom would be, make sure you are verifying the register at the beginning of the day in terms of the cash that it holds. And if any edits are needed, make sure that's done, first thing the next morning or as soon as possible in that regards. Sorry. We're going to go ahead and look at some financial reports, and then I will talk about our V2 report that I wanted to highlight as well. So we'll start in finance and take a look at a few different sales reports. Now, we had already taken a look at our register summary, which is reflecting, both those open and closed invoices, which again is why we highlight the importance of closing, your invoices at the end of the day. The first report we're going to take a look at is our sales by services. What this allows you to do, you can filter by category or subcategory, business units if applicable, the status of the invoice, and then again by the applicable date range. You can also filter by employees if applicable. Again, I know most of you all are, your employees are listed as chairs, or you can even filter by a particular service name. Now, once I select this report, what this is going to identify is the invoice number, the name of the service, and As indicated, when you do see blue text, it is a clickable item. So if you needed to navigate to an invoice to kind of look at the details further, you can simply click on this invoice and it will take you right to that invoice. Right to that invoice, excuse me. You also see details regarding services in terms of, as mentioned, the category and subcategory, the booking date, as well as the sale date. As mentioned, right, the booking date, and in most cases, is something that is generally set before the date in which the actual service was performed. So the sale date in this regards. You'll see details regarding the guests, the details regarding, who performed the service if relevant, the quantity of the services. You'll see details regarding any type of promotions that have been applied. So any, a 10% off that you've used, and you'll see that adjusted price or discount listed in the discount column, excuse me. The price here reflects that initial base service price. So that what has been defined within the system. If there were any manual adjustments, so if you needed to make edits to this price, if you manually made an edit to the price, that would be reflected here as well. If we scroll over, you'll also see details regarding the net price of your service. So that will be listed. And again, I know tax isn't as applicable on your services, but there is a column for that as well. And we'll talk about this more in looking at our products. You'll see details regarding the price that was paid for the service, as well as the sale value. Ideally, these should align, but if there are any differences, those would be listed here. More so if you made it like manual adjustments and things like that. You'll see details regarding, the different payment types, status of the invoice, closure date, and you'll also see details regarding if this is a first-time guest, if they're a member, and who closed this particular invoice. And so this is our sales by service report. Now, along those same lines, we have, or you all have access to our sales by products. Again, I can filter by category, subcategory, invoice status. I can select a date range, and then you'll see it captures the same type of information regarding the products that were sold, the sale date, the quantity of products, the price here for products, as you'll see also is totaled here at the bottom of the columns, any type of discounts that have been applied on these products, and it breaks down that net price as well as that tax component, again, if applicable. And again, I can see here that price paid and different details regarding the sale value and similar details as to what we saw in terms of the payment type, when it was closed on, and additional guest details. You also have the ability to take a look at your sales of memberships and packages. Again, it follows a similar type of workflow, so I won't maybe necessarily run through this whole report, but this is going to allow you to see those memberships that were sold, give you invoice details regarding that membership sale. I can see here that sale date, details regarding the price of that membership, and details regarding, again, the price that was paid and sale value. So, this is useful, right, to see, what your membership sales look like on a particular date or given time frame. So it allows you to configure that piece and component. Now, moving out of our sales reports, I wanted to jump into collections, and I'll just make sure that I didn't miss any chats. Okay. Now, there's a few different collection reports that I wanted to highlight. The first is in regards to collections by item. So this allows you to go ahead and filter the different collection types as indicated on these different items. So if you wanted to see your collection amounts for, all of your services, you have the ability to go ahead and filter. And what it will do is break down those invoice numbers and the collection amounts for, in this case, the filter by services. So it gives you that ability or flexibility to see the details regarding, the payment type as well as what was collected. Whoops, excuse me, the total collection here in regards to this collection report. You may be curious, right, in terms of your membership collections or, package collections, etc. So you have the ability to filter accordingly. Along those same lines, you also have the ability to run a report that's kind of more of a summary type of report for collections by item type. So what this allows you to do, given the time period, you can see based on this time period, each date in the collections, on services, on your products, collections for those membership sales, packages sales, any type of gift card sales, and you would see those all listed. On the horizontal line, it's going to give you your total and collections for the day, and on the vertical line, you'll see your total across these different item types for the time period that you've selected. Now, where applicable, if you want to show the collection including tax, if you needed to, again, if applicable, wanting to include tips, you could go ahead and add these filters and see the change in the amounts that are listed here or reflected here. The last quick collection report that I wanted to show is collection by payment type. So it has a similar sort of feel in terms of again, it provides you those dates and within this time range and those different collection, in this case, payment types as you see. So what you'll also see on your live site is the ability to define or show those credit card types. So right now, this is just kind of the generic credit card header, but if you were to refresh this by clicking this box, you would see Visa, MasterCard, etc. listed here. So it would give you a good detail once again based on your collections for that particular date and your collections over this time period. Again, you have the ability, if applicable, to include tips, and if you at all use any type of custom payment types, you could go ahead and show that as well, and it would break down those custom payment types individually as well. Now, as mentioned, we do have some fairly newer reports, and so one that I wanted to highlight in using the V2 report, this hopefully will be useful kind of moving forward. But again, I would encourage you all to take a look at the articles with this and go from there. Sorry, that's the wrong report I wanted to show. So the sales by cash report is what I wanted to highlight here. So if your business follows cash-based accounting, and so essentially what this is indicated based on, a sale is based on that payment that is received. So in this terms of this report, you can think of this more in the lens of your collections. Although it says sales in this case, again, we're kind of reworking our reports. You can think of this as a collection-based report. Now, what you'll have the ability to do here, and which I think is super helpful and useful, I'll kind of walk through these different pieces. You have the ability to filter by date, and you'll see that this allows you to even go back a year in time, something that with our V1 reports wasn't as easy or as accessible as it is something you'd have to run for 2 6-month time frames. You have the ability, again, depending on your role permissions, to filter by center. You have the ability to filter by item type, and we'll talk about this in just a second. You have the ability to filter by payment type, and for you all, since you have your membership credits, we'll talk about kind of what this will look like in just a second, and then the different sales types. So if I go ahead and run this report, let's use maybe yesterday as an example. This will identify details regarding the sale date, whom it was sold by, but more importantly, potentially more importantly, you'll see details regarding the guest, the invoice number, the item name, so whether it was a service, whether it was a product, just depending on the items that we've selected. The sales that have been collected, you'll see the ability to exclude or include tax, again, just depending on the information that you're looking at. And the totals will be listed here at the bottom, similar to what we've seen on previous reports. Now, what's nice about our V2 reports is you have the ability to go ahead and hide particular columns. You'll see I essentially have every column listed here, but you can go ahead and hide columns that maybe aren't applicable or you don't want to see anymore, and you can save that view or save what you're looking at the moment. You'll also see that you have the ability with these 3 dots to make groupable columns. So if I went for a date range, let's say, I can go ahead and take this sale date and move it up to this top row. And what this then does is breaks down my reports to these different sales dates, and it gives me those details that I had kind of just addressed a little bit earlier on in terms of, those invoices for this particular sale date, etc. So with these 3 dots, these do create the ability to create these groupable columns, essentially, if you wanted to filter, by guests or by item categories, etc. What you'll also have the ability to do is save these views. So as you are potentially removing columns or you're creating different groupable content, you can save this view, and this will then appear here on this list of your views. Some kind of, obviously this is a demo account, but you'll see here that you have a variety of flexibility. So if you wanted to take a look at, your gift card sales for your center, if you wanted to take a look at your package sales, it allows you to kind of create these different customizable views based on your configuration of this particular report. What's also nice here is you'll have the ability to see, again, all of your different payment types. We'll just use, again, yesterday as an example. So it's going to show you that total collection amount for the day. However, you may just be curious about, the membership credits that have been used for, today's date or yesterday's date. So you could simply just go ahead and take a look, at those membership credits, and you would see that information listed here. So you potentially, obviously this account isn't set up 100% like yours, but you would have the ability to view, those membership credits that have been used for those invoices. On the opposite end of that, you may want to look at all of your sales or collections, minus your membership credits, because you don't want to see that as a part of this report. So a lot of flexibility here that I think, this has, similar to what we just saw in terms of our financial reports, for both sales and collections. I think this has a lot of flexibility to capture all of that information, within one report. I wanted to pause. I know I kind of spoke a lot. Are there any questions at the moment? And if not, that is okay too. Okay, perfect. Hopefully everyone's still able to follow along. So moving back into our reports, again, this is just kind of one V2 report that I wanted to highlight that, again, I think is, super applicable for most businesses. I wanted to move into different membership reports. So again, underneath categories here, your membership reports are actually found within the marketing category and underneath the memberships filter. I have a lot activated for my particular account, but there are 3 that I did want to highlight. The first is in regards to recurring memberships. What this allows you to filter by is either by the due date or the collection date of a particular membership. You'll also have the ability to filter by, again, a specific time frame. And we'll talk about the status in just a second. When I select this time frame, it's going to show me all of those reoccurring membership charges or those monthly EFTs for the memberships or for your all's memberships. So you'll see the membership name, you'll see that invoice pertaining to this membership EFT, and you'll see the guest details. Now, obviously, on a guest profile, you're going to have more information regarding that particular guest, regarding their membership on their client profile, etc. But this gives you kind of an overall view in terms of, how many attempts have occurred in trying to collect that membership EFT. It shows that price that's to be collected, the due date, as well as the collection date. And you'll see here that in this case, this is something that's all been collected. This report's super helpful because you also have the ability to filter by those that have either failed collection, maybe are pending, and other different types of statuses. Obviously, on this account, I can't show a failed collection, but this is super helpful, if you do have guests or clients who do have membership collections that have failed. Maybe their card's expired. And so you want to kind of capture that information and maybe reach out to that client, right, to go ahead and update that card on file and things like that. So this is useful to kind of see those membership recurring collections within this time period, or the customized time period, You also have the ability to take a look at redemptions. So obviously you all are selling, a membership. You are charging that monthly EFT and providing your clients that, essentially monthly credit that they can use on, at the point of sale. So what this would allow you to do is, let me filter real quick. Don't know if I have anything on this particular. Move forward. Sorry, it's just taking its time. Yeah, I'm not sure I have a membership set up on this account, but what you all will run on this report is that credit value redemption. So what this is essentially going to show you is the amount that is or has been redeemed. I apologize, it's thinking still. You would see that redemption amount that has occurred. You would also see here on, again, in running the other report, I apologize, I can't highlight it at the moment, but this is also going to give you the redemption balance. It's going to show you details regarding, that membership sale date, when that invoice was closed on, and other additional details. But the main piece in regards to this is to view those redemptions that have occurred within the time frame that you've selected. So you can kind of get a whole list essentially of those clients that you have who have redeemed their membership credits, and it will give you that total listed here over that configurable time period. With our V1 reports, you also have the ability to export this information. So, as your clientele keeps growing and you need to kind of look at this holistically, you can export this document as well. The next report, sorry if I'm moving quick, is in regards to membership details. So this would allow you to, specify a particular membership if needed. And this will kind of give a breakdown again in regards to that membership over details over this time period. So this is helpful in terms of looking at, those guests who, the start date of their membership, what that credit amount looks like. Again, I apologize, I don't have an account that reflects that at the moment. So what the credit amount is that they have. You'll also see details regarding their balance and different details regarding their total credit amount that they have on hand. So this allows you to kind of, again, get a holistic view of your different clientele and that information. As mentioned though, right, in going to a guest profile or client profile, it does allow you the ability to see directly on an account what what that credit balance looks like for that specific client. All right, we have about 15 minutes left. I think we're doing good on time. I wanted to highlight some inventory-based reports fairly quickly, and I'm just going to actually jump into the inventory module because it's a little bit easier to just kind of run through these reports from here. What I wanted to highlight first is in regards to audit history, and I don't know if you all have had the chance to perform an audit or go through this process yet, as I know you're all fairly new to Zenoti for the most part. But with this report, you have the ability to filter by list of audits over a given time period and for a particular product type. So, your consumable products, your retail products, or all of them. And what this is going to show you is I maybe should have done a smaller time frame. It's going to show you details regarding that audited date and then when that audit was reconciled. You'll see here details regarding the quantity and value, before your audit, what was audited and that value, and then what was reconciled and the value of that reconciliation. So this is helpful in terms of, reporting your shrinkage. You can use these numbers or values to identify what that shrinkage looks like. You have the ability to take a look at reconciled reports, see the discrepancies or differences, and if any notes have been entered, if a potential product maybe was broken or stolen or something like that, generally those are captured within those reconciliation notes. So this is again a useful report in managing your inventory. In terms of bill of materials, now I know you all are tracking your services, tracking your products on your services. So with this report, oops, let me select that. This allows you to define those services that were performed. Again, ignore my services on this particular account. It's going to show you details regarding the quantity. So I know in some cases, right, you're changing the quantity of the add-on service and that's also going to update the products that are being tracked on that particular invoice. So what this will allow you to see is the product that is being tracked, the units of measurement for this product or units, and then you'll see details regarding the quantity that was used on your particular service. So once that invoice, is closed, once you've made those changes, right, to the quantity for that service and the products being tracked, this is going to reflect, those 200 cc's, or that's probably a lot, but those different values here on your services. So this gives you a good idea, what services, are being used, how much is being tracked on this particular service, and what that consumption looks like for that product. So a helpful report to take a look at that and see, obviously, right, there's other details regarding, who performed the service, if applicable, the service date and time. So you can kind of gather a variety of information from this report. The consumption report is going to show you, again, based on the products that you've selected over the particular time period, it's going to show you, oops, let me just use this at the moment, what that consumption looked like. And what this means is it's going to define the opening quantity and value of your products. And you'll see the totals listed here below. So based on this time frame, so 3 months ago, essentially, this is what my opening quantity and value was. It's going to then show me my inflow of products. So any products that have been, have come in through purchase orders that I've saved and raised and marked as delivered, the value of those. Any products potentially in the future that have been, transferred over would be reflected here. You would also see then any outflow of product. So any product that has been, sold at the point of sale, transferred potentially to a different location, but more commonly, right, for your particular business is products that have been consumed. So products that have been used on services, that would be reflected here. And then you would see here on the far right, the closing quantity. So based on today's date within this time frame, where you're at with your products and the value of them, again, at this point in time. So this again gives you kind of that overall picture of your retail, or excuse me, your products, depending on what you've selected over that configurable time period. I'll jump back in here real quick. The next report I wanted to highlight is in regards to orders history. Again, I can filter by product, time frame. And what this is going to allow me to see is based on what I've gone ahead and selected this filter by, whether it's your retail products, consumable products, all of them, it's going to show all of those products that within this time frame I've created purchase orders for. And you'll see details regarding the purchase order, the ordered value, as well as the delivered and delivered value. So ideally, right, what you've potentially created on a purchase order and the should reflect what's being delivered. But in those rare cases where maybe a vendor can't provide you the amount that you requested, you would see those discrepancies between these two two numbers. Essentially, you'd see the overall differences listed here as well. And again, more than welcome to export this for your own records and things like that. The last inventory report that I wanted to highlight is in regards to the value, and we've kind of maybe highlighted this a little bit in our consumption report, but essentially, again, you can filter by product, type of product, you can filter by categories and subcategories, even by vendors. But what this will allow you to see based on today's date, it's going to show you, again, quantity-wise, where you're at with your selected products based on these different filters and the value of your product. So if you're curious, where your products stand at this moment in time, you have the ability to view this information and get a good kind of overall picture of where your quantity and value of your products lies at the moment. Yeah, last piece with inventory. If you take a look at your current stock, I guess actually that's a good note, just a side note. If you don't audit and reconcile your products at the latest every 3 months, you will receive this pop-up, so you won't be able to view your current stock until that process is done. So that's something I just wanted to point out real quick. But once you've gone through that process, the current stock here, as you can see, this identifies the last date and time in which I've reconciled. However, the current stock reflects where my inventory is at the moment. So it shows me, again, that total quantity and value of my product. So even though I haven't reconciled, since the 6th, it's still essentially tracking that information of my products. And what you'll see is you have the ability to click on a product name. This is also going to give you a transactional history. So if there's a particular product that you're like curious about, different different items in terms of, what's been sold potentially at the point of sale, how many services have been performed, and basically that consumption tracking. This is going to give you those dates and times of those different transactions. So any purchase orders that have been marked as delivered, any type of sales, as I mentioned, etc. So the system kind of does track that information. Even though you haven't audited and reconciled since the 6th, the system still captures all of that information. The last few reports that I wanted to highlight, obviously there's a variety of different reports within our system, but the last 2 or 3 would be, this is similar to what we, or what I talked about in terms of, running a recurring membership report. You might find that you have a few guests that have failed collections, right? Their cards might have expired. So we do have the ability to run a credit cards report. And what essentially this would allow you to do is filter by the status. So actually this account's a little bit different. There should be a credit card expiry. I don't know if I have it on this account. I thought it was earlier. Sorry about that. But essentially when running this report, it would allow you to go ahead and filter by the expiry date. Let's just use all statuses. Yeah, I don't think I have it on this one. Sorry about that. But it would allow you to filter by those that are expiring within the month, as an example. So you can see all those cards that expire in January 2021, and that's a good indication that you need to reach out to your clients, or the next time they come in, maybe you put a note on their account and say, hey, we need to update your credit card or add an additional card. So something I wanted to highlight. Some other reports that you can run is in relation to active membership statuses. So if you're curious for those clients that do have memberships and have active memberships, this will give you kind of a holistic overview or list of those clients that are active members. As it's indicated, it shows you, their start date of their membership, their next due date, as we've seen on previous reports, and that active status and membership type, as we talked about. And then finally, the last report I wanted to highlight is within marketing, underneath the loyalty points from the dropdown is the balance as on date. So for those of you that did have migration from your previous system, and for those guests or clients that do have loyalty points on file, you have the ability to go ahead and run essentially a balance as on date. And what this will do is show you all of those clients that do have loyalty point balance, And so that will be reflected for each individual client that you see here, and that overall total per all of your clients. Apologize, I kind of sped through a lot of that, just trying to see, get everything in at the moment. I wanted to see, with the little amount of time that we have left, are there any other questions around reports that you might be looking for? I can take back. Kim or Katie, James, Linda. I know this might be a lot all at once, so. Hopefully everyone can still hear me.
I can.
Awesome.
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay. I guess, yeah, I know some of you, right, the go live was fairly recently. Have you all had a chance maybe to look at reports yet? Or I guess, I'm sorry, Linda, if you had a question, I apologize.
Oh, it's okay. It was earlier. It's okay.
Oh, was I able to answer it, or?
Well, I was just going to pipe in on Shannon's thing.
Oh, okay.
You answered.
Got it. All right, then. Well, if there are future questions, again, you have a couple different resources, right? You feel free to reach out to our support team. There's help.zenoti.com, or if I need to, kind of walk through these again, I'm more than welcome to. So with that being said, I know it's a little bit later for you all. I want to give you back a couple minutes of your day, and I hope you have a great weekend.
Thanks, Nathan.
Yeah, have a great day.